what I am going to show is going into an omoplata from the lasso. So a lot of times, sticking that thumb in just for a split second to roll those lapels, pinching my knees in, and then coming to this double wing guard. And when I'm in this double wing, like my hips are off the mat, I am pulling her arms into my shins. And is that comfortable for you? No, that should feel not great. From there, that's when I scoot my hips out and I get on one side. My top leg is gonna go over and going to shoot through pretty deep. Once I get deep on that, I'm gonna start to kind of play that out right there. So now I've got my lasso guard, and so going into my omoplata, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll switch my grip. So this outside hand is going to switch over right here. And now I am going to invert. So from here, my foot that's on the hip is going to come across to this side, all right? Once I get to this position, this is where I'm gonna start to kind of crunch in and invert on my back. I can even use my free hand now by shooting it through to help me get there. Something that also helps me invert is by this foot that's on the hip, I take it off and I use my toes to get to this position right here, okay? So before I get too far, going over that first part, so the entry into the lasso. So getting my double sleeve control right here, and then flaring my legs out, my shins out, pulling her into me, turning to one side, I'm still controlling, over and through. I shoot this through really deep, and then I'm gonna flare that out right there, and that's gonna put pressure on her bicep. So from here, I'm going to do two things about at the same time. I'm going to switch my grip and I'm going to move my foot over to the inside. So I make those two moves happen right there. From here, this is where I'm gonna dive through. So I'm gonna go through this hole right here. I can use my hand on her body to help me, but I'm also gonna use my foot that's on the floor to help push me through. Now, if this is a bigger person and I don't feel like I've got the momentum here to kick, this is where I swing around to the triangle choke, right there, okay? But if this is somebody close to your size, you're feeling confident that you can hit this, diving it through, and I'm gonna kick forward right here. And a lot of times, if you use enough momentum, that will actually flatten the person. If not, no, you don't have to go flat. So we can talk about this right here. So if you didn't use your momentum, they didn't shoot forward, they're not already flat, you're gonna take this hand that's on the outside, you're gonna tuck it on the inside. You can kind of grab this tricep right here, make sure that's nice and tight. From here, I'll scoot my feet off to the side, this little S sit, and then I'm going to switch my hand. So my outside hand is gonna come right here on her lat, and my inside hand is gonna come to the mat. And I'm gonna do one sideways snaky move right there to break her over. From here, I have seen so many ways to finish an omoplata. And I've heard the way that, like, I learned how to finish an omoplata, and then this high rank was like, that's trash. I don't finish omoplatas like that. And they taught me their way of finishing the omoplata. And then I went to another seminar, and this other high rank was like, yeah, that's trash. I don't do that. So I was like, I'm gonna do what I do. And if I tap people with something, I'm going to keep using it, because my body is completely different than Brian's body. So it would make sense that the bigger guy had different details than the smaller guy. So I actually kept my details from the smaller black belt that I learned from. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna try to get her shoulder at a right angle. So I am controlling this elbow right here, and I'm gonna scoot up. And right there, she's already making a face. So her shoulder's getting really tight right here. From here, you can loop this through if you want that control right here, but I don't wanna lean forward by her head, and I don't wanna go by her arm. I actually wanna go right through here, kinda like a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna glide right there. So I'm staying low, and I'm just gliding, and I'm not going forward, I'm not going to the side. And those are my finishing details to the omoplata, and I finished most of my omoplatas. So, from the start, starting with my double wing with my hips up off the mat, turning to a hit, over and through, shoot it all the way through, flare it out. Go ahead, switch your grip, move your foot. Make that circle right here. You're gonna use that momentum to kick them. If you don't get them flat, go ahead and move that arm to the inside. You're gonna switch your grip right here. So what happens is I'm pulling her into my body. I need to be able to create a little space for her to go into. So when I switch here, I can use this hand to help create that space that her hips are gonna go into. Once I get here, I like to secure that tricep and elbow again. I like to scoot forward to make this as close to a 90-degree angle as I can. From here, you can scoop through and have this control right here. You're just gonna glide up right there. And if this is giving you any problems, then you finish the wrist off. And that's what I would do if they are not tapping my omoplata. So we'll go lasso into our omoplata. 1, 2. Hey, I've got an extra. Going into our lasso, it's gonna be the same entry. So I go ahead and switch that grip. I'm gonna shoot through, but this time, when I'm kicking her forward, I'm gonna dive under her leg, all right? So when I dive under her leg and I kick her forward, I'm actually gonna do a little barrel roll right here. Once I hit my barrel roll, there's so many things that you can do here. If you wanna be fancy, you can step over and just go right to the arm bar. But I really haven't actually done that to anybody, but you can do it. But I normally just come up and get my sweep, so I'll show that. But you know, I like the art part of the martial art. So I like just, I don't know, having fun with it. And maybe I wouldn't do that on a black belt, but I'd probably do it to a white belt, you know? So coming through, hitting that lasso right there, going all the way through. This time you're gonna dive under the closest leg. As I'm kicking forward, I'm gonna go ahead and barrel roll over. And most of the time, I'm just gonna turn and get side control. So this time, dive under the leg. And when you're here, you're just gonna roll. Does anybody need to see it again? Let's try it. Oh, one more time, one more time.
Ooh, oh my God.
Does it matter? I kind of like that I can see what's happening. Okay, so going into that lasso, everything's the same. Right here, dive under the near side leg. Shoot this forward, roll her over. And then you can just come up, get your sweep. Let's do it, 1, 2.